Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The Alumni podcast where you get to hear the inspiring stories and transformation that DVC has had to offer its alumni. And now, on with the episode.
Okay, almost done. And we are live. And actually, I'm very excited because this is my friend Bob Lilley. We've known each other for more than a minute.
Yes, that's true.
And I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself and we'll kind of go from there.
I'm Bob Lilley, friend of Charlie Daly, and know him well enough to call him Charlie. I don't know anyone who calls him Charles, so I'm sorry. Maybe. No. But I met Charlie, 20-something decades ago, 20 years, something like that. And I was happy to find him the other day, and we had a little chat, and here I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and this is about you, Bob, not me, because I know my story.
Oh,
so, and the thing is, yeah. So,
because I can tell you things.
So, yeah, please don't.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Well, no, it's like I was just amazed because it's.
I was still alive.
Well, not just that, but I can tell this is going to be a lot of fun. So,
75 years young.
Yeah, back when I was a kid. Yeah, those darn kids, get out my lawn.
Yeah.
But
now look at him.
There was stuff that I found out about you when we were having coffee the other day that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. So, and some of it we can even talk about.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's start with where you grew up.
Well, that's a great story. I hope. I grew up in a lot of different places. I was born in Oakland, California. Do they want to? Should I
just you can talk to me. I'm just
okay.
I got to check. I got to check, make sure everything's like.
No, good.
Yeah.
I was born in Oakland, California, and lived on MacArthur Boulevard. And that I only know that because my mother told me.
Okay.
And I believed everything she said. And then when I was 5, we moved to Long Beach. I'm not going to go through the whole list because it's long and winding, like a Beatles song. And my father was a chief accountant for Shell Oil Company, was a chief accountant. I think, like a lot of indigenous American tribes, they had a lot of chiefs, and my dad was one of the chiefs. So that was good. And we moved all over the country, and that gave me a great perspective. I say two things: that when I went to school, I knew that I probably wasn't going to be there long. And I believe it or not, I'm really pretty shy, and like all kids, I think. And I knew I wasn't going to be there long. And unless you want to eat lunch by yourself, which doesn't sound right to me, you better start making friends like now. So that was lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, the thing I'd like to say is when people just throw out a name of a state, North Carolina, I've been there or I've been through it. And oddly, I haven't been chased out of that one. But so I lived in New Orleans, lived in Houston, Texas, lived in a place called Midland, Texas that no one had ever heard of until this guy George got elected president, and now it's all over the news. Yeah. So there's that, and then ended up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And from Cleveland, I returned triumphantly to California, to Pleasant Hill. We bought I didn't contribute much. My dad bought his first home at the age of 44, which is odd because he'd been traveling all over. And why would you do that? Why would you buy a house in Cleveland? So he got here. Now he has roots, and he bought his first house in 1962. And I started my California education, restarted my California education across the street at College Park High School. Go Falcons. 1962, my first day of school was November 20th.
Oh, wow.
You may remember on November 22nd, somebody shot the president.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and that put everything, any friendship things were immediately on hold. I was the new kid. That's a tough enough start as it is. And I was completely invisible for about 1.5 years. So.
And that had to have been tough. And I know that was at the beginning of College Park. When did College Park start?
It started 5 years before, I think, because the first graduating class from College Park High School either was the year that I began, or it was the year prior. But it was,
Okay.
yeah. It was
Okay.
right,
Because I was going to go. I remember I talked to his name escapes me now, but he was one of the original class of the first class at College Park. So
it was a great school. New school was great. It was great. It was, and I was used to going to school in the East Coast. Again, Cleveland, old brick buildings, 60-year-old buildings,
and the weather's better here anyway.
The weather's way better
and
here.
It's not Cleveland
on both sides, on both sides. The only thing good about Cleveland at that time was the Indians had a pretty good team.
Okay.
But anyway, that's so I started that College Park, and I looked out the window and I could see this big shrine on the hill that I was told was DVC, or as we called it, high school with ashtrays.
Yes.
Yeah. That was still gets a laugh that time. Yes.
Well, and it's I went to Ignacio Valley High School a bit after you did. But it's like back, we had just gotten a smoking section out on the field, and that was a big deal. So that was back in the mid 70s. So
wow,
it was, we were moving up, but so you were looking across, there were still, this campus is more than a bit different now, isn't it?
It's a lot. It's different, but a lot of it's the same. I did not know where Charlie's office was. And so I don't have a good sense of direction anyway, but I'm trying to find my way up. So what do? You revert to your muscle memory or whatever it's called, some kind of memory. I forgot. Anyway, and I came up the hill, and I remember when I walked up here and chased a goose, and when I met Sally Jane Johnson, whatever. So it has changed a lot. It's grown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm proud to say that for you folks, I think it's grown in esteem. And even back in those early days at College Park, all the teachers would say, boy, that school across the street's really pretty good. And they had a lot of good teachers then. I'm sure they have good teachers now.
Yeah, we've got a number of teachers that teach both over at Berkeley at Haas Business School and here. And
really?
Yes. And so they teach, physics over there and here, and they teach, so we have a number of, there's a lot of cross-pollination going on.
Yeah, there was
with the faculty. We'll just say
there was a little of that too. Yeah, so,
yeah. It's going to be way too much fun. So, by the way, this goes out unedited. But no, there's that is DVC does have that reputation now, and it's amazing. Some of the I meet some of the folks that I've had the opportunity to interact with here, and it's like, oh yeah, when I'm teaching over at Berkeley, and I'm like, oh. Okay, but the thing here is the classes are a lot smaller than they over at Cal. So
yeah,
so you ended up DVC, and I know that you talked about how did you end up here at DVC?
That's a great story. I hope. I was brought up. My dad went to Cal, graduated. Pretty high up in his class. I don't know what the number was, but my dad was a very bright guy and great father, very loving father. And I was he wanted my brother and I both to go to college because that was the path to success. And so it wasn't a question of whether I was going to go to college. The question was, what college was I going to go to? And I didn't have any idea. And my dad kind of wanted me to go to Cal, and Cal was both close, but too close. And so I don't know how much that went into my thought process, but, so anyway, so I didn't know where I was going to go to school. And worst of all, I had, my recollection of school in general is you were exposed to a lot of different things. You'd go to history class and you'd learn that this is what happened in 1492 and this is what happened in 1066 and this is the Treaty of Ghent, all these. And that's fascinating to me, fascinating. And then I would go to chemistry and I would learn that it was, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen makes water. And I'll be damned. And then I would go to physics. And so I had a lot of interests. And I wrote for the school paper because if you could shut me up, then I could still write. So I kind of broke the rules, under a pen name. So I love school. I really did. And I love school because my friends were there. And so summer vacation was a little bit like being in the penalty box to me,
This is before social media for you youngins out there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So you couldn't, and you weren't gaming with them because I remember when Pong came out, I pumped a lot of quarters into that stupid game.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. I remember. I don't remember when it came out, but I remember the era of Pong. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So getting back to our story. So I didn't know where I was going to go. And I didn't think it was really a good idea for me to go burn up my father's money so I could take English 101 because I'm pretty familiar with the language, So I said, okay, I know what I'll do. Well, I figure out what thing I wanted to do. I would go to DVC because it was close. We live up the hill. Everything's fine. And that was great. And during my time here, my mother was remodeling and father were remodeling their hall bathroom. And a guy came in, and I've always enjoyed doing stuff with my hands. This guy happened to be a tile layer, and I'm watching him, and that was fascinating to me. And I decided I wanted to go build stuff, and that wasn't in college, and it kind of broke my father's heart a little bit. So I joined the Electrician's apprenticeship program. Fast forward, and where do I find myself going to class? Diablo Valley College.
Wow.
Yes. And back in those days, the building trades, not just the electricians, I believe it was the plumbers, pipe fitters, some other, I've taken welding classes here for my electrical career. And I've taken economics classes here because economics is pretty fascinating. And so this DVC is a big part of my life.
Yeah. So you went through this. So what was, besides just going here and getting chased by a goose, what was like your, which actually at the time there was a lot of geese. I know for a lot of years.
They referred to it as a goose. I learned that.
Yeah.
That was clear to me.
I thought about that, but
that's why you honk.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah.
So,
at the time.
So what was, besides getting honked by the goose, what were some of your other memorable experiences here at DVC?
A memorable experience that I just thought of as I got out of my car was, let me preface this by saying, I believe, to all you folks out there, all you youngins, I believe that you will never have a time in your life where you are exposed to so many new and fresh ideas as in college. That you just won't. You just won't. Because this is where everything is new. Even history is new. And I got to the point where I would take a class and I would take biology, and I did okay in biology because I liked biology in school, and I took chemistry. That was pretty interesting. And I decided, and I saw astronomy, and astronomy is great, I thought. And I went to astronomy, and Mr. God, I wish I could think of his name. Because I have a little doll that I used to stick pin, and I took astronomy, and it was a nightmare for me, just awful, because there were concepts that were so foreign. That's where I realized how big my intellectual envelope really was. It wasn't, when your dad tells you, you can go in America, you can grow up to be president. I realized I was probably not going to ever be an astronomer. The president thing I wasn't clear about yet, but the astronomer, we established that pretty early on. So, yeah. So that was a memorable thing. The other thing about DVC, and I think this is one of the curses of DVC, is that it's so close and it's so accessible that you kind of take it for granted. I'm all set. I would love to take an Excel class because I've had to learn it on my own.
Mm.
And I think a structured class to learn all the wonderful things you can do with Excel, the program, I think that would be good for me and for my business and so forth. So,
well, I think it would be too. And we'll get you signed up.
good. I bet you have. I don't know if you have an Excel class, but I bet you do.
I think I know a guy.
Yeah,
So,
I bet you do.
so you went from there, and you were here doing the electrical apprentice thing, and then taking classes in astronomy and finding out that you weren't going to be an astronomer, but you thought you might still be president.
I thought I might be.
Okay, well, it's still on the table. I
And
mean,
you look around and you think, boy, I think they've carried this anybody can be president thing a little bit too far,
Okay.
perhaps.
Okay.
Well, judging by the last couple candidates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So once you did that, right? You went on, and you then ended up being an electrician. And this is the thing I did not even know about.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was very proud, very, very proud to be a wireman. Firemen don't call themselves firemen; they call themselves firefighters.
Yeah.
A carpenter doesn't call themselves a wood butcher. They call themselves something. We call them other things too. But
Yes.
they have other things.
Well, this is a family-oriented thing, so you can't use all.
No,
of it.
you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah. And so electricians refer to themselves as wiremen. Unless they use the other bathroom, and then they're a wire. I don't know what they
Wire person.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, very proud of that. And I got to be 35 years old. That was a few months ago. I thought incorrectly that I had gone as far as I could in the electrical trade. And what I realized is the electrical trade, I know people that have gone, they do bigger and bigger projects. They do them from a managerial level. Although, to be fair, the thing I love about electrical work is putting that plug in the wall and hanging that light. I mean, I just think it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do this and the light goes on. That's as close to magic as I'm ever going to get. So I'm very happy about that. But my dad told me why you buy a house and how deductible interest. So I bought a house. That was good and turned out well. It didn't turn out well for my marriage, but it turned out well for my financial. My wife disliked me so much, she gave me the house, and that is a true story. That is a true story. So.
Okay. We'll tell that on another time, because that sounds like it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your time as an electrician, because it's just like, I mean, because you had said that you had worked as a salesperson, you were doing something for the union.
Well, I worked. I sold paint at Montgomery Ward's, which we set a low bar,
Yeah.
But anyway, but I became an electrician and had a lot of other interests, and how are we? Oh, and you were going to transition to what else did?
Well, no, we were talking about, because you had mentioned a couple things that you had done for the union.
Well, yes. So
you were a recruiter or something like that.
Well, that came later.
Okay.
I was an electrician, and I left the trade. And I decided I was going to become a real estate agent, because that's what you do when you don't have a job. You get, I'll be a real estate. That looks easy. Yeah, that's not true. But to do it right is not easy. Anyway, so I did that. I had a pretty successful career. And now I'm a broker and some other things. But when the Great Recession hit, I did not have the foresight to connect myself with the bank and sell distressed properties like everybody did. And there were a lot of people that survived. And by the way, even in real estate, everybody thinks real estate, you make a ton of money. You can make a ton of money, but there's always means every 10 years, 8 years, something, there's a big calamity. And it was the oil embargo in 1972 that caused a big problem. It was something happened in late 80s, early 90s. The Great Recession, of course, happened around 2008. And I built this real estate business and couldn't do it. So, I mean, there was no real estate to sell. So I went back into the electrical trade, and fortunately I left on good enough terms with enough people that a very good friend of mine and former DVC student, Mike Diaz, ran his father founded the company, and he was now running Contra Costa Electric. He hired me to go do a job, and I'm back in the business. And I could see the union from the outside, and the union had kind of, in my opinion, sort of lost its way a little bit. With the union was always a really good good place for quality training, and they trained quality workers, and the older workers who knew how to do this, they would promote you. They would, promote education. I think maybe they lost the plot. That's probably, my union brothers might have a problem with me saying that, but that's my belief. And so I helped a friend of mine become business manager, and we're still good friends. And I was the political advisor for the union, and I would go to all the different politicians and say, you should probably have our guys do your projects because we know what we're doing. So that's probably what you're talking about. And that is like being a salesman for the union. And all I can tell anybody who's in a sales position, if you really believe and you really love the product that you sell, you'll be fine. And I did. So it was an easy lift for me.
Yeah, I know. My son, I mentioned before, he's one of the brothers.
Yeah,
so
good for
he's
him.
in
You
the
got an
brotherhood.
election coming up in a week.
Who's he need to? Well, we can't say that. We'll talk off. We'll talk offline. I'll let him know. I'll let him know.
I'll show you some photos. And
there you go.
That'll play it right there.
Okay. Well, but you do bring up a good point. Is that it's and I mean DVC kind of plays into that, but the thing is it's about you want to hire, like, for instance, the thing with the union is they, and I know my son had to work really hard to get his journeyman certificate, and it's there was a lot of stuff, and I don't think I could have done it. He's way better at math than I am, and
that's one of the requirements.
But he definitely he excelled at it. He did really well, and and he loves what he does.
Good for him.
Good for him. So but I agree. I think it's one of those things where you got to go hire the people that are going to give you the best product. And have the most education. And have the experience to be able to do it, and be safe for them, and be safe for the people that occupy the building. Mm-hmm. And because the biggest, I think every craftsperson wants to think that they are important, and I agree with them. I think they are, but electricians say, like, if we make if a plumber makes a mistake, then the building has sewage it's flooded with sewage. Electrician makes a mistake, the building burns down. That's a little bit too disparaging. I have nothing but respect for plumbers and certainly pipe fitters and so forth. But it is true. That's Well, and at the same time, it's like you want to hire people to where those are not the things that happen. At all. So,
and those people have to be worth what they're paid. They have to bring that craftsmanship to the table, in my opinion.
So in other words, if you're building a big building, you don't need to go with the guy I know a guy that does it cheaper, as the saying is,
No, that would not, when all those things are equal, I understand people looking at the price. But just make sure that all things are equal. Signatory, that's what we call union contractors. I don't want to make this commercial about the union, because some unions have kind of lost the plot and some of them haven't, in my opinion. But building trades generally the crafts unions are pretty good. Their contractors are generally better capitalized, and they can stand by their bid. I was working for Contra Costa Electric before I retired from the trade, and sometimes we would not make money on a job. Sometimes we would lose money, and you need a big company to be able to absorb that and continue on. You can't kill the pooch by by losing a bid. And, So are you still a card carrying member? I am.
Oh,
I have it with me.
Wow, really?
I do.
All right, pull out your card.
D404392.
All right.
Oh, you know what? I wonder.
Did you walk out the door without it?
No, I didn't. Because I'm wait.
Oh.
Because I'm retired, I don't have to carry my dues receipt.
Oh,
yeah,
look
there
at that.
it is.
Okay, so here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is, folks. He's a dues carrying official. Oh, it even says official receipt on it. I've never seen one of these. I'm not. Yeah, internet. Oh my goodness! Look at that.
Yeah.
So
yellow means the check didn't clear.
Okay.
So they'll be calling me now. Thank you for that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, hey. So there we go. We got to make sure that they stay in business. So.
Yes. They
So well, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't get to keep it, but anyways. But no, I mean, it's like that you do. That's how you feel about them, is that you continue to support them.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think everybody can probably say this on some level, especially when you end up with an office like this. You've done a lot of right things, and you've had probably a lot of blessings from other people that helped you, that took you under their wing and admired what you did and your work ethic and so forth. And I'm the same way. Nobody's born knowing how to be an electrician. Nobody's born knowing how to be an alumni outreach person like you. You have to learn that. And the electrical trade taught me about working, and that it's an art and craftsmanship. DVC taught me all kinds of crazy things. About well, like I said, biology. I have some fond memories of physics class here,
but not of astronomy.
Not of astronomy. I almost remembered his name. Nice enough guy, but I don't know. I thought it was going to be, there's Orion. No. That wasn't what it was.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. And I mean, that is the thing about DVC, is that it's a place to go find out what you don't want to do too.
It is a place. Yes, it is a place for you to find that out.
Yeah. Cause there's a number of people that I know of that have come here, or they went, a friend of mine, his daughter went off somewhere else to a different school, big 4-year school, or a big Pac-10 school at the time, because this is before the 12, and she gets halfway through and goes, "Dad, I want to be a nurse." Well, there's no nursing program at this school. So he spent, what was it, 60, 80 grand, because out of state, or it was 40 grand or something like that, for his kid to go, "I want to do this." So she finished out the year, but then she came home when she went to Cal State East Bay, became a nurse. She does very well.
Well, good for her.
Yeah.
Well, all the love in the world to her for being a nurse. That's certainly an essential job. It would have been
nice to find that out of DVC.
You have to go to Pennsylvania to get it.
Exactly. But well, cool. So are you still involved with the trades at all, or just other than you show up for the picnic?
Because our local has an election coming up, and because one of the candidates, I think, is a clear choice. I've called my other brothers, and just to spill the whole deal. And I don't think it's very respectful when you call someone and say, "Hi, I'm voting for Joe Dokes, and I think you should vote for Joe Dokes too." I think you should say, "I'm voting for Joe Dokes. I think he has a good plan. But the important thing is that you need to vote," because and that is really true. And that's not just some saying. When you look at our country and you see that something like 25% of the eligible voters actually voted, I'm not sure that's really as much of a democracy as we say it is.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you don't want to vote, then maybe it's probably a good idea that you don't. But you should understand that it has an effect on your life and your family and your kids. And so, yeah.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, I'm of the opinion that you can't complain about the way that anything is unless you voted. And then you can complain all you want.
Yeah.
But at least vote, because then if you didn't vote, then, granted, my vote is one amongst, however million, but then at least I get to complain.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard a figure just the other day that the Russian Empire, if you will, that they were in the Imperial Russian, the Russian Empire, Tsar Nicholas II. Terrible economic conditions. It was everything went, to the top, and it was so bad in Russia at that time, around 1917, that even before 1917, that the Russian hierarchy, the leadership, the people in power, would go to France, and they would speak French in the court of Tsar Nicholas.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas the people, their subjects, were speaking Russian because it was Russia, And yeah, so it was terrible people starving and whatever. 17% of the people in Russia were the ones that backed the Bolsheviks and then did the Russian Revolution. So you can overturn a government with only 17% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And don't despair.
Yeah, we're not advocating for anything.
No,
so don't turn us off.
No, but and don't look that up and go, this guy's full of baloney. It was 23%. It was not a very big number.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
So
you still stay involved with the union, because you do believe in it.
I do.
Yeah.
And I think it can be better.
Oh, it can always be better.
Always be better.
Always be
that's
better.
true.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets to be glaringly obvious. Yeah. Yeah.
So what else are you doing these days besides advocating for your guy? In this case, it is a guy, right?
It is a guy.
Yeah.
It is a guy. Doesn't have to be. We proudly have many very talented sisters
Mm-hmm.
that could be business manager. They have the good sense to not try to take that thankless job. But so the I had a real estate career. I had a financial services career. I sold mutual funds, which was, again, fascinating, because the way you trade in a stock, in a mutual fund, there's a lot to it. And with graphs and charts, and those guys love that stuff. Very data driven, very data focused. So I became a real estate broker, which means that so now I can have salespeople working under me, and my wife is a salesperson under my brokerage. I leave it to any casual observer to tell you who's running the show over there.
Well, I wasn't going to comment because I know her, so I know who's actually in charge.
Yes, I enjoy eating and sleeping indoors. So, especially when the weather gets cold. So I'm a broker, and I have a business brokerage, which is where if you have a print shop and you want to sell the print shop, you would say, I've done it. I made good living, but I want to retire. I want to sell my brokerage, my print shop. People would come to me, and we would sell their business for them. It's pretty.
So you're a broker for selling businesses too.
For selling businesses. We're called business intermediaries.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. And real quick, so if ever you're selling anything, I believe that the first thing you need to do is determine the monetary value of that thing. Don't sell a guy a Tesla because you can get 60 grand for it. You've got to be able to explain why it's worth that kind of money. And in business is the same way. In business is just like anything else. There are some things you've developed a clientele, and the people that come in, they look at what that business can bring in today. And then our people, I like to think, our buyers, we help them determine what they can do to make it to increase the income. I suppose if a guy came to me and said, Bob, look, I only want to work 5 days a week. Okay, here's some things you can do to be able to take Saturday and Sunday. But I mean, you tailor it to their vision. And then I also have a property management wing, because I have a construction background. I know about houses. So
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because
Yeah.
like, oh, I happen to this. Oh, I happen to wrench on cars, and oh, by the way, I do everything but astronomy.
Yeah,
So-
there's no astronomy.
Yeah, no astronomy, but I do
He wants
windows.
to rent a house. He says, I'm a Leo. I said, I got nothing. I got nothing for you. I don't,
So, sorry, I got off track a little. Yeah. Oh, you need printer repair? I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, what would be something? So let's imagine for a moment that somebody has, they decide they do want to sell their business. So what's the process that you would advise somebody to go through to kind of like get it tuned up for? Because obviously they're probably going to have some idea of what they think it's worth. And then what do you walk us through what
it's
that
the
process
same.
is.
It's the same for that as it is for, well, really, I suppose it's the same for that as it is if you're selling a house or if you're a guy, Bob, why should I rent this for $3,500? Well, because you're close to commute and whatever. There's things that make a difference. So for a business, the first thing you do is get your last 2 years tax returns. And then if you're going to do it today, which is like June 17th or something, you get a profit and loss statement for year to date. And we look at that, we analyze it, and it's more than how much the business makes. There's a thing that's called adding back. There's a little thing in investment called EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and and amortization.
There we go.
That hurt. And you add that in, and those are generally accepted figures. They have to be real. Generally accepted ways to value a business, and you come up with a value, and you get a buyer that wants to buy it and help them get an SBA loan, and it's good. We just sold a place in Benicia. A guy and his wife, terrific family, sold it. You always ask him, why are you selling? It's, well, I'm selling because my cat needs a kidney or something. Well, that we can probably do it without selling the business. But he wanted to sell his business because and I love the story. He looked at me and he goes, Bob, I have 3 sons and they own 3 boats, and I want to go fishing with my sons on the bay. And that's good enough for me. I think I'm going to sell my business and go with you. That really got me in the heart. So you check the motivation, and then we found another guy who was looking. He was a manager of a auto repair business, and he wanted to have his own show, and he found this one, and we brought it to him and got him together, and there was on this level, on this business, it was really a great transaction because it was not confrontational like it can be, and these guys were both had a lot of integrity, I thought, and they, and the new guy has changed some things, and he's doing great, and that's good. And I'm sure that Joe, the guy that sold the business, is good luck to you. And
he's fishing on the bay.
He's fishing on the bay. Yeah.
Well, and it seems to me, I can see, well, and the reason I was asking is I can imagine that people come in and they have unrealistic expectations as to what their business, they think it's worth. And
generally, it's because of they've received bad information. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing when people sell their house. It's the same thing, but not always. Some people say, gee, I bet I can get this. I bet I can sell my house for $750,000. And I do the comps. I go, I think you're probably looking at about more like $850 because of this and this and so forth. And you explain to them. And by the way, the worst thing you can do is to put a house or a business on the market for more than it's worth. Because a guy smart enough to buy that house for $750,000 is smart enough to know a lot of baloney when he sees it, and you'll sit on the market, and that's just please don't do that. Don't do that.
So go work with a professional.
Yeah. Well, and there's a certain amount of trust. And, I'll be honest. We sold our house that we lived in 3 years ago, and we put it on the market. I don't remember. We put it on the market for $1.1 million, and I think it sold for $1.225 million or something like that. So I undervalued my own home by $100,000. That's almost 10%. To be in my defense, I did it because I want to get the house sold. I'll let the market tell me what it's worth, because the market knows. And I think that strategy is far better.
So what else don't I know about you? Because now it's like I find out you're a business broker, and I had no idea.
I was an average baseball player, and that curve went down as I got older. When I was at College Park, I tried out for the baseball team, and I frankly wasn't up to stuff. But a couple of years earlier, I was okay. But so I'm not a big baseball player, but I love the Oakland A's, and they might move to Las Vegas. They can move to Polaris, the Star, and I'll still think of them as the Oakland A's, and mostly because my dad was a big Oakland A's fan, and I was born in Oakland, and I saw a lot of great players. Ricky Henderson stole his 859,000th base.
I was at that game.
So was I.
Yes.
My son called me. I adore my son. He deserves a better father, but there's no way I could have a better son. My son called me, and I think it was on the day that Ricky Henderson had that great stolen base thing, and he said, "Dad, I just wanted to thank you. You took Dave Shinneman and I to the game, and we saw." And he said it, and I remembered, and I can remember Ricky Henderson picking up the base and literally stole the base. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I took my dad to the World Series. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great because he took me to a lot of great things too. Yeah.
So what else? I mean, anything else fun that, I imagine once we turn this off, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's right. But I have a deep interest in philosophy. Oh,
and that's a racket. When you go to college, folks, take like business administration, accounting, those you'll make a few bucks there. Philosophy? No. So anyway, I'm very interested in that, and I'm interested in, so I do a lot of reading about that. And
so if you had to give a piece of advice to younger Bob Lilley, what would you tell him?
Well, make your bed, like your mom told you. So there's that. I would say, I said this to I have one son that's mine, and I have another son that I inherited in my second marriage. And I said to my other son, my inherited son, that one of the hardest things in life, one of the hardest things to really understand is who really cares about you and wants the best for you and who doesn't. And don't think just because, hey, we're best friends. Sometimes that your best friend is the guy that's, taking your car keys and stealing your car or whatever crazy, you know what I mean? People leading you astray. And I hope for everyone that their mother and father and I hope and pray that that's true, that they are the ones that are looking out for you. And it isn't just because they like to tell you what to do, because that's not a very popular thing sometimes. But
well, it's kind of their job.
It's a real job. It's a real job. And I get a kick out of parents that say, "Oh, my son is my best friend," or women that say, "Oh, my daughter and I love to have best friends." And I say, you know what? They're going to have a lot of friends. They only have one mom and they only have one dad. So, you tell me which one is the most important one. I would do that. I would also say that, I think you want to be the person that can do what the other person can't do. I want to be the guy that can sell the business for the printer, who's a great printer, doesn't know the first thing about selling a business. I want to be the guy. Oh, gee, this house is worth $1.5 million. How do I get $1.5 million for it? Well, there's a way. Let me show you. You want to be that person, and don't Don't listen to the throng that says, "Oh, I hate school. Oh, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to." School is what makes you better. You want to be the sharpest knife in the drawer and not the dullest, certainly. So, and the best place to do it is, and I don't care what it is. I have a friend, a very good friend, Guy Deal, and Guy Deal is a very talented artist. He's taken classes, he's taught classes at DVC, and as well been a student. So you don't have to learn how to split the atom or something, but it's pretty cool if you do. You get a little knife, and then
It's a really small knife.
a really small knife, and the boom is crazy. But anyway, so you could be an artist, and there are people that will help you. It'd be great if education was a linear thing. I learned this thing. No, generally you learn this. Oh, this is great. And then you hit a barrier, and you need someone to help you get over that hurdle. And that person generally is a teacher or a nun with us. Ruler here.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know you went to Catholic school.
I worship from afar.
Okay.
I saw enough kids with bloody knuckles. What happened to you? No, the nun. Oh.
Yeah. No, I don't think life is very linear. And too often we think that life is just your story about your life. First you moved around.
Oh yeah.
Then your dad's like, you're going to college, and you went, no, I'm not. And look where you are now, selling a print shop.
Selling a print shop, yeah.
And selling the mechanic shop up in Venetia, which I happen to love Venetia up there.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. My wife just sold a house in Venetia.
The boss sold a house up there, huh?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it for now. I think we've got some other things. I'll find out who the person is my son's supposed to vote for, and I'll put a plug.
Yeah, good. Because it's the good thing is about the union and about any union that really truly is there for the members, is that you can have these elections, and I really mean this. You can have these elections, and they can be pretty contentious. I ran a couple of years ago, and I lost by a very small number of votes after a tie 3 times or something, and it really hurt me when I lost. I mean, it hurt me personally. But at the end of the day, they're my brothers, and that you got to put all that aside. And so, it's good. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Well, thank you, Bob Lilley.
I'm so happy that you're in this position.
I am very excited about it too. I'm having a great time, and we're going to do more fun stuff together. For one thing, we'll get your guy in office. Maybe.
Good. Yeah,
we'll see.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Charlie.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next, the podcast for the DVC Alumni Association. You can contact us at alumni@dvc.edu with any comments, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our podcast.